And a very good evening to you, and welcome to Politics 101 on a Wednesday night. Welcome to all of you, whether you're joining us from Guyana or you're joining us from outside of Guyana. Welcome to Politics 101. It's my pleasure to be here with you on this beautiful evening. Good evening to you. How about Linden? Good evening, Linden. It's a long time we haven't shouted out to you. Good evening. Welcome to our program this evening. Good evening to you. Tonight we're going to continue our discussion. Why are they all in a frenzy? Why are they all in a frenzy over the Washington conference? The conference organized by the CGID. The government has been trying to spread a lot of propaganda about the conference. But some of us were there, and we are here to tell the story. Please share the link. Please share the link and let everyone know that we are on this evening. We are on this evening. Good evening. Some of you are already here. Good evening to you. Last night we started our discussion. We had GHK Lal on, and we want to continue our discussion tonight. Why are they up in arms in such a frenzy over the Washington conference? That's the question. I would like to thank all those people I met there at the conference, delegates at the conference. It was a wonderful 2 days. Thank Rickford Burke for bringing us all together in one place. And it was a very important event when historians are going to record this period of our history. That conference in Washington, that conference in Washington, D.C., will take center stage. I'd like to thank all those people I met at the conference, the delegates, the fellow participants. I want to thank you. And I want to thank the people in the Washington, D.C. area who turned out to the meet and greet with myself and Brother Kidaki Amsterdam at the Grave restaurant owned by our fellow Guyanese, the Bavigans from Bedford Wacton. They were gracious. They hosted the meet and greet, and people traveled from as far as Baltimore. Some people came. One gentleman was there from New Jersey. He was traveling on his way from the south, and he stopped. And all the others who were there, my sister Lynette Greenwood, I know who you are now. Annandale people, Congo people as we call them in Buxton, and the Buxtonians who were there. I want to thank all you all for coming out and meeting with us and greeting with us. And for those of you who were not aware of the event or got very, very late notice, we are going to organize another meet and greet, another fundraising event shortly. But it was good to meet so many of you. So many of you wanted to meet us in person. We got a chance to talk. Want to thank you all so much for coming out. And again, thanks to those who organized that conference and to the participants. They were telling people there were 20 and 30 people at the conference. I can tell you, on the first day, they had to shift the location because the registration for the conference went over the what they catered for. And on both days, there were over I counted over 125 people there on both days. And of course, they were selective. They were selective in the people they admitted because the government wanted, the PPP wanted to send people there to disrupt the conference. And so they were quite selective. I am sure that if the doors were open wider, that place we would not have been able to get people there. So that's the first thing we want to let you know. The conference was well attended, And on the first day of the conference, 273,000 people viewed the conference. On the first day, 273,000 people. You all hear? 273,000 people viewed that conference. So if you consider Guyana's population is about 715,000, you're talking about, think 1/3 of Guyana's population viewing that conference on the first day. And I don't have the direct figures for the second day, but it exceeded that number. So let's put that to rest in terms of those who attended in person and those who viewed the conference. There's been lots of propaganda by the government because they are scared of events like those. And I'll tell you why. There are a number of reasons that they're scared of events like that. The first big reason that they are scared of events like that is that once you go to Washington, D.C., you are speaking to the world. You hear me? 273,000 people. They weren't only Guyanese at home. Obviously, there were Guyanese abroad and there were non-Guyanese who viewed. And so what they were hoping to cover down, because of that conference, it's now out in the open. And they, of course, did not want us to meet with the American officials. So they're scared of the world knowing what is going on in Guyana. They're scared. And they're scared of us taking our case directly to the American people, the representatives of the American people. In particular, they're scared of us going to talk to the Black Caucus. You see, there are representatives in American government who understand the world and understand Guyana. But the Black Caucus, the representatives of the Black community, they are representing Guyanese and West Indian people in their constituencies. And they understand Guyana. They understand a country like Guyana because it's the Black Caucus and their sisters and brothers are in countries like Guyana. Sister Yvette Clark, a member from New York, her hairdresser is a Guyanese. She said every week she goes to do her hair, she gets an education on Guyana. And of course, Yvette was showing off her, she was talking about Linden and Buxton and Georgetown and Berbice, and Hakeem Jeffries said, I'm not to be left out. What about Essequibo? The point I am making is that the members of the Black Caucus are not coming into those meetings with us ignorant of Guyana. They know Guyana. And so when we talk to them, they understand our language, they understand our issues, and that is scaring the daylights out of the government. Because we are speaking to people who understand the motion of Guyanese and West Indian society. I tell the story all the time that my friend Freddie Kissoon, just after the March 2nd election in 2020, and when I realized what was happening, that there was regime change and that the American State Department was involved and so forth, I said to Freddie, I don't think that the Black Caucus is going to stand by and allow a PPP government to take advantage of Black people. Freddie jumped on me. Oh, the Black Caucus is not going to pay any attention to you all, and blah, 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 blah. He wrote it in a column or two that, you know, he laughed at David Hines when David Hines said the Black Caucus, and he told me, look at Owen Arthur and Bruce Golding. They're Black people, and they are on the side of the PPP. Well, Muna run till they catch him. I am waiting for what Freddie's going to say now, that the Black Caucus has met with opposition, and as Ravi Dev said, opposition members in and out of Parliament. Good evening to my brother, Osier Morgan. Osier, thank you so much, my brother. Thank you so much. Osier drove all the way from South Carolina, and he was there for both days of the conference. He took Brother Kedaki around, and wonderful brother, wonderful brother, wonderful brother. So they're scared of us meeting the Black Caucus, because the Black Caucus is going to be able to tell our story to the rest of American government. There are 50-something members of the Black Caucus. And when I raised in the meeting we had with Brother Hakeem Jeffries and Sister Yvette Clark, when I made reference to the charter of the Black Caucus, and I reminded them of the role that the Black Caucus played in helping to bring down the authoritarian government in Haiti, paving the way for Aristide to come to power. And I reminded them of the positive role that the Black Caucus helped in bringing down apartheid in South Africa, and made reference to the charter of the Black Caucus to take an interest in what happens in all societies where Black people reside. Brother Hakeem responded. He said, there is a reason that the founders of the Black Caucus did not name it the African American Caucus. They deliberately named it Black Caucus to include Black people inside and outside of America. And they said we went there unprepared. We were unprepared. We went there, we read and studied the charter of the Black Caucus. Unprepared? Unprepared? We went there, we were able to remind the Black Caucus of its own charter. Unprepared? They don't know what they're talking about, and they don't know who they're dealing with. This, David Hines, would never go to a meeting like that unprepared. And my brothers and sisters who were there did not go to that meeting and those meetings unprepared. We knew the organization we were going to meet. We knew the history of the organization. And this government did not want us to tell the Black Caucus about extrajudicial killing in Guyana, because they, in the Black Caucus, represent Black people who are killed extrajudicially in America every day. We all know that story. They understand our language. The PPP doesn't want that. They knew about the demolition of homes. They saw that in South Africa. So when we told them of the 4 instances in 2020 where the homes of Black people were mowed down, in Linden, in Mocha, in Georgetown, and in Hillfoot. What data? That is the data. And they understand what it means to Black people's homes to be mowed down because they're Black like me, Black like you. They understand our pain. And that's what the PPP is scared of. They understand what it is for police to shoot down. Breonna Taylor was shot in her bed. The brother from Dartmouth or in Boston was shot in his bed. They understand that. That's why the PPP is scared. They're trying to say that we went there without evidence. Brother, Vince Adams, and he's going to be here on Friday night. But Vince Adams spoke on oil. But Rickford Burke gave an overview of the problems we are facing, African Guyanese in particular are facing in Guyana. The sister, Novella from Georgia, she spoke on the Guyanese vote in Georgia. And she was able to give them the approximate number of Guyanese in Georgia, in that swing state, who are likely to vote for the Democratic Party. Brother Collison spoke on the voters list. He gave the numbers, exact numbers of the voters list. And how bloated the voters list was. He was precise with his numbers. I'm going to have him on here. He gave them those numbers. Sister Olive Sampson from Itpadaji, she spoke. She spoke about the subvention that was taken away, about the work Itpadaji is doing and has been doing. And then I spoke. I made reference to the extrajudicial killings. I made reference to the kicking down and demolishing of Black people's homes. I made reference to the flouting of the collective bargaining agreements whereby the government is not meeting with unions that represent Black workers and other workers. And as I said, I made reference to the charter of the Black Caucus. And I told them that if they do not pay attention to the human rights violations in Guyana, we may have another South Africa on our hands. I was direct. We were direct. And they told us, put all that information together. Because we invited them to send a fact-finding mission to Guyana. So we are going to continue to give you all the data. We have the data. Itpadaji presented that data to the United Nations. They have it. And we have it. We have spoken about some of it here. And they tell us they need the human rights violations because they will have to prepare a document to send to the Department of State to facilitate the fact-finding mission. And then they're telling you all we went there unprepared. My mother and my auntie and them didn't send me to school to waste time. The Guyanese people did not make the sacrifice of people like myself to go to university to waste time. That when we go to a meeting like that, we go unprepared. No, they did not educate us. You all did not educate us to go to, as the big people in Guyana would say, an auspicious meeting like that, unprepared. We were very prepared. So that nonsense that we went there without data, what data? The first day the parliamentarians met with them. I was not at that meeting. As you all know, I'm not a parliamentarian. I was not at that meeting. I cannot give an account of what went on at that meeting. But I trust my sisters and brothers that they went to that meeting well prepared. And that second meeting, the second meeting on the second day that I was part of, came about because the Congress people were busy on the Hill trying to keep the government open. And so those who were supposed to come to address the conference could not come. What they did is that they invited us instead to go on Capitol Hill and meet them for a second meeting. We suspended the conference, or we moved the conference to Capitol Hill, where they met with us. 2 meetings in 2 days. You all have seen all the photographs around the place. Somebody sent me photographs of myself at the meeting. With me alone, there are about 15 photographs. There are hundreds of photographs, and I'm sure they're making the rounds. And those people met with us. The meeting went 15 minutes over time. They took us seriously. Very seriously. And we were able to make our case to them. And I deliberately said, when it was my turn to speak, I said, we come here not to ask you to meddle in Guyana's affairs or to intervene in Guyana or for regime change. No, we do not come here to ask you to engage in regime change. I was clear about that because I know the unpatriotic thing was coming. I've been in politics long. I knew they were going to say, we are going to ask the Americans to intervene. There's a reason we went to Washington. We didn't go to Australia. We didn't go to New Zealand. There's a reason we went to Washington. Because whether we like it or not, Washington, America, is geopolitically involved in Guyana. They have major investments in Guyana, in our oil industry in particular. As I said in my remarks on the opening day, that our conference, its deliberations, should be done against the backdrop of Guyana, the petro state. Everything we talk, whether it's economics or politics or culture, it has to take into consideration that reality. America's always been involved in Guyana, but it's now more involved because of oil. And in the election of 2020, America was more overtly involved than it has ever been. America imposed sanctions on one participant before the elections were over. It meant, therefore, that America influenced the outcome of the 2020 election. They determined who got into power, and that is why 1 year later, the State Department was able to say the elections were disputed and the government was installed. And the political scientists would ask, installed by whom? The Americans said the government was installed and that the elections were disputed. So we were there not to tell the Americans come and intervene. We were there recognizing that the Americans are already involved in Guyana. And we were there to say to them, those who are not on the ground. You see, the ambassador is part of the State Department. He or she reports to the State Department, not to Congress. We went to Congress because Congress is not the recipient of direct information on what's happening in Guyana. We were able, through me, to tell the members of the Black Caucus that the outgoing ambassador offered to mediate between the government and the opposition, and they did not know that. We gave them that information. Because if you are a member of Congress, you're not directly involved in what's happening in the State Department, unless you're part of the Foreign Relations Committee or the Hemispheric Committee. And so we were able to tell them about that mediation, and they were not aware. They were glad that we brought them up to date. You're talking about going there unprepared, and the people asking us, we gave them information. We told them that the State Department said the elections were disputed and that the government was installed. We gave them information that they didn't have. And the PPP didn't want us to give them that information. Going there unprepared? So we were able to give them the information they needed. Information they did not have. So we went to Washington, not to ask anybody to intervene in Guyana. We went there because America is already involved in Guyana. And we went there to give a branch of government that is not directly involved our view of what is happening in the country. And we apprise them of what the State Department has been saying, what the ambassador has been saying, so they will be better informed when they interface with the State Department. We didn't go there to ask anybody to intervene in Guyana in a negative way. We are the victims of regime change. We are the victims of regime change. We are the victims of regime change. We didn't go there. We didn't go there to ask for regime change. We did not. We did not. And so they're scared. They're scared because they knew what we were doing. We weren't doing it in secret. We weren't doing it in secret. We weren't doing it in secret. Sisters and brothers, we are telling you the whole story. What happened? We were there. We were there. And we're going to make it. Because we have taken the struggle to another level. We're going to make it. We're going to make it. The Black Stallion, in one of his calypsos, said, we will make it if we try. We will make it. And we're going to make it. Tell you what. Let's take
Brooklyn! Love you, man. We want to say it's good to be here this beautiful night. We want to put the best voices together. So the treasury broke and they say that reason and jamming. So to foreign countries, yes, we start migrating. We lose faith in we country, they say we gone down the drain. They say no more, but we see happy times again. But the will to recover in my people, I have confidence. Although many may seem to feel that I talking nonsense, but the majority of us decide we're not going to run, because now is the time to show me patriotism. Why our country facing is that it's our, and our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, one little thing I want we all sing together. What?
We can make it if we try.
What?
Just a little harder.
If we just give one more try, life would be much sweeter.
Life would be more sweeter.
Love your God. From the time we analyze just what was the problem. Yes, we start making very positive moves to solve them. We fire the old settlement, it's just they had working. And in that new branch route, we went and we prayed. And if the goods we require, them new managers not supplying. When election time come back from this new ones we bring in. But if there's one thing about my people, I could guarantee that they would never ever put my PPP for country. Look,
Our country facing
it's dark, it's our, and our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, one little thing I want we all remember. What?
we can make it if we try. Just a little harder.
Oh, if we just give one more try, life would be much
sweeter.
When the treasury got full and happy time, some was enjoying. They said move back and laugh until poor people was living. But now the treasury broke and the country come back to square one. Poor people remain on the same old ghetto in John. But look at the economy return today on some footing. This is the same for people 10 days and cold are they taking. And without social unrest for people paying the price. Because they know for the country nothing so much to sacrifice. Why? Our country facing its darkest hour. And our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, one little thing I want we all sing together. Sing for me.
We can make it if we try. Just a little harder.
If we just give one more try.
We could make it if we try. Our country facing its darkest hour, and it needs us, all of us. That's why we are here tonight, and that's why we went to Washington. Because we know we can make it if we try. Our country is facing its darkest hour. And you all take it from somebody who studied the history of our country. This is our darkest hour. A government that feels it knows everything and it knows nothing. A government that is intent on taking revenge. They feel that the PNC did them wrong. So they now have the opportunity and the money. They're going to push their finger in all our eyes. A government that is bent on domination. A government that feels that its kind is superior to other kinds. A government that feels it is their destiny to govern Guyana. A government that feels that slavery was biological. And so, biologically, black people are slaves. And even though we are not on the plantation with chains around our feet, they treat us as though we are slaves because they feel that we were born slaves. They do not respect our leaders. They do not respect our unions. They do not respect our organizations. They feel they can buy us with pennies. That is the government that is in charge of our country. And so our country is facing its darkest hour. And it needs us now more than ever. And if it's one thing we can be sure of, our people will not put party before country. Every night I come here. Love your political party, but love your country more than your political party. We are trying to build a new consciousness among our supporters. A consciousness that's based on equality, equity, and justice. A consciousness that is based on respect for other human beings. That when an African sees an Amerindian or an East Indian or Portuguese, he or she must see a human being. They say all kinds of things about what we do at night. They say we are racist, we are this, we are that. But we are trying to build a new consciousness. And it is that new consciousness that we went to Washington to represent. And we represented you all well. And all the lies that they're trying to tell, all the lies that they're trying to tell, that the conference was a flop. Nobody didn't come. We didn't meet with the people. And then they were forced to say we met with the people, we weren't prepared. The people asked us for evidence. Evidence of what? Do we need evidence? Do we need evidence to say that you all sit down with Exxon and bid down $214 million to $3 million? We need evidence. Do we need evidence to show people, the world saw, how you all broke down black people's homes? Those matters are before the court. What evidence? People ask us for evidence. You reduce the murder of Orrin Boston and Quinton Bacchus and Peter Headley to evidence. Evidence. You reduce those people's homes that you all brought down, kicked down in Mocha and Linden in front of the hospital at Hillfoot. You reduce that to evidence. That's human rights abuse. And that's what we went to Washington to talk about. It's a sick government. Any decent government caught in the way that they have been caught would have at least said, we made mistakes. We made mistakes. Let us correct it. But no, in the face of the world, being educated about what's going on, you all are still saying that you all did nothing. Where is the evidence of discrimination? The vice president himself said no oil block was ever given to black people. He is presenting the evidence. What evidence? The vice president himself admitted after Nigel Hughes skinned them up that they give 20-odd roads in one predominantly Indian community and 7 in the other communities. And Jack Dio himself said, when we are doing roads, we don't do numbers. It just happened like that. Evidence? What evidence? You all are the evidence. And that's what we are taking to the world. Give thanks to Rickford Burke for having the courage, having the foresight to bring together a meeting like this. I don't know if Rickford intended it to be like that. But you had in one place Aubrey Norton, Amanza Desir, Rosedale Ford, Nima Flubes, Gadish Maipal, the major leaders of the PNC. I'm forgetting a couple. The major leaders of the PNC. Kathy Hughes, David Patterson, the major leaders, Brother Duncan, the major leaders of the AFC, Kidaki Amsterdam and I were there as major leaders of the WPA. Even if Rickford did not think that is what he was doing, that is what he did. He brought together the major leaders of 3 major opposition parties in Guyana in one place. when the office of the Prime Minister said we were unpatriotic. They used a picture with Aubrey Norton and myself and others in it. They don't know what they were doing. They were showing the world a united opposition. A united opposition. Rickford did not bill it as a meeting of the united opposition. He called it a conference on Guyana. But it was a conference on Guyana that brought together the major leaders of half of the electorate. What a feat. If I were the PPP, who talks every day about the infighting in the PNC and how the opposition is weak, but you had all of the opposition there in the capital of the most powerful country in the world, standing strong. Standing strong. Major accomplishment, sisters and brothers. Major accomplishment. And then we had the rest of the delegates, young people from the CGID and other places. The deputy mayor of Linden was there. We were all there together, strong and united. The PPP cannot take that. They cannot deal with that. When we are disunited, each of us in our little silo, they're smiling. But when we went to Washington to lay our case, they tremble. Unpatriotic, the PPP quietly spent over 400 million Guyanese American dollars lobbying the American government. They paid lobbyists over $400 million before the no confidence vote. They were doing it in secret because they were seeking to overthrow the government. We didn't pay lobbyists. We went there ourselves in the flesh to make our case. We didn't do it in secret. We went there in the open. We didn't scamper away in the dead of night to go lobbying for regime change. No, we did it in the open because we are not about regime change. Unpatriotic? Unpatriotic? When the PPP was asked, how do we know the elections? In 2020 were won by the PPP. They say, ask the international community. All of them were at Ashmin. Were they unpatriotic? Some of them said you should put up a statue in Georgetown to Sarah Ann Lynch. Were they unpatriotic? They were in touch with the Secretary of State, who was calling the shots. Were they unpatriotic? Shortly after election, after they were installed, who was the first major external visitor to Guyana? The Secretary of State of the United States of America. Were they being unpatriotic? Only the other day, the president was saying How strong is the bond between Guyana and America? Were they being unpatriotic? Who unpatriotic and who's the jackass? Taking a line from trade winds. Who's unpatriotic and who is the jackass? We are unpatriotic. We are the patriots. We are the patriots. We are the patriots. Better days are coming. Better days are coming. Together, we will make better days for Guyana. This conference, I hope, has breathed new life into the opposition ranks. New life among us, giving us, our people, new hope. Better days are coming. The PPP knows that. Better days are coming. It is the Americans who said, the outgoing ambassador who said, if we're going to have free and fair elections in 2025, we have to get the legislation done today. CARICOM, who helped to install the PPP government, they said GCOM in its current state cannot deliver free and fair elections. CARICOM said that. I am making the argument here tonight that the people who installed the PPP regime are saying that it was a temporary move and they don't want to do it again in 2025. The PPP will have to face the music on its own. And we are working to ensure that. We have said to the Americans, do not make that mistake again. Because of the error you made in 2020, the people of Moko today are without their homes. Because of that error you made, Orrin Boston's family and Quindon Bacchus' family are without fathers and brothers and sons. Because of that error you made, the people of Linden, the vendors in front of the hospital, the people of Hillfoot are without their premises. Because of that error you made, that young constable was spat upon. Because of the error you made, that young female lawyer was locked up because she was doing her job. Because of the error you made, little boys were killed in West Babis. And that crime remains unsolved. We are saying to the Americans, because of the error you made, the government is not meeting with the teachers' union, the public service union, to grant a living wage to our public servants and the teachers. We're imploring on America, do not make that error again. Because of that error you made, we have not been able to correct that bloated list. There must be a way in which America protects its economic interests and its geopolitical interests without endangering the interests and the security of the Guyanese people. There must be a way to make that balance. So, sisters and brothers, the struggle is on. We have just passed another milestone. That conference in Washington, D.C. is another milestone. Stay with us. Stay with us. Leaders make mistakes. Some mistakes are consequential, some are not so consequential. And we must hold our leaders accountable for their mistakes. But now is not the time to dump our leaders into a pit. Now is the time to stand and to strengthen our leaders. The leaders on the opposition side are not perfect. We are not perfect. I make bold to put myself in that category. We are not perfect. But with little space, little political space, we are doing much more than we could do. Sometimes it may look as though we have lost, and we are lost. But there are times the storms ease a little to give us a glimmer of hope. The thunder stopped rolling last week. And it allowed us to plant new seeds so that our tomorrow will be bountiful. What is happening to our people in Guyana is not something that is ordinary. It is akin to what happened to our brothers and sisters in South Africa and Zimbabwe and Namibia. Apartheid is not a law. Apartheid is a system. A system of apartness. Not apartness by law only, but apartness in practice. And Sister Cathy Hughes stood on that podium and shared with the world the work that her husband, Brother Nigel, has done in accumulating the so-called evidence. Over 300,000 people saw that evidence, and yet they say we did not take evidence to the Americans. In the first place, the Americans don't move stupidly. The Americans have intelligence. The Americans know what the hell is happening in Guyana. So even without us giving them the evidence, they got the goods on the PPP. They got the goods on the PPP. What the PPP does not want, it is for us to go to the Americans, not like thieves in the night, but as free people advocating for the freedom of our land and our people. God not sleep. God not sleep. Look at the blackouts. Where is the investment in energy to ensure that the blackout stops? Where is the investment? Brother David Patterson has been talking a lot. He called it cake shop operation at GPL. They're investing in infrastructure. We are not against that. But it's obvious that investment in infrastructural development is a means of putting money in the pockets of their oligarchic friends. And as the PNC people say, favorites and family. You see, if they invest in you, if they invest in the Buxton proposal that WP has put on the table, to give a percentage of the oil dividends to the suffering masses, the families, and let them use it to build up their own family infrastructure. There's no contractor to bid for that, so the money don't get to go in nobody's pocket. We are saying they're mismanaging the oil revenues. I'm going to have Professor Thomas here, I think, tomorrow night. Look at the nonsense that they have done. They hold a public auction. And the Venezuelans looked at the public auction and said, oh, so they're bringing in Europeans and they're bringing in Americans, more Americans, and they're bringing in Europeans now to line up against us. And the Venezuelans start the saber rattling. We in the WP are arguing that that public auction was a mistake. Because what you did is publicize long in advance who your investors are. Excite the Venezuelans. And get the Venezuelans now up in their demand. You see, there is oil. There is the Guyanese people. There are the Americans and the British and the Europeans. And there is Venezuela. Venezuela is an important factor. They are our neighbors. They have designs on our country. When you move in, you don't only move to satisfy your friends, you're watching your enemies too. And this damn government, so daft, talking about unprepared, they're unprepared for governance. Whatever you do, you have a bellicose neighbor with designs on 3/4 of your territory. And you are making policy as if you don't have any enemies next door. They're so damn unprepared. And they're telling people unprepared? It's a government that knows nothing about nothing. Our country facing its darkest hour. And our people needs us now more than ever. Stay put. Stay strong. Stay put, stay strong. Our teachers are not battling. They're now telling our teachers, fooling our teachers, that allowances must take the place of wages. What kind of nonsense is that? We're not against allowances. The teachers will want allowances because it's tax-free. But allowances cannot be substitute for wages. That is the issue, my brothers and sisters. I'm not against teachers saying that they want allowances or more allowances. and concessions for homes. And if I had my way, teachers would not pay one damn cent for house lot. So I'm not against allowances. What I'm against is the substitution of allowances for wages. And the president going over the head of the union and negotiating directly with teachers is a violation of the collective bargaining rights. It's a violation of the human rights of workers. It's a violation of the conventions, international conventions that the government has signed on to. The president is not God. The president is the president. He's not God. The party of Cherry Jagan now has a president that is killing trade unions. We have a battle on our hands. We have to spread the word to our teachers. Do not be fooled. Allowances cannot be a substitute for wages. A living wage is what all workers all over the world want. Allowances is a one-time thing. Your salary is an everyday thing. You want allowances and the salary increases. You want a living wage and allowances, not one or the other. Don't make them fool you all, because that's all they feel, that black people they can fool. Because we are not a people of reason, they think. So they can throw all kind of nonsense to us and parade us to talk nonsense, some of us. It's an old argument that you give more allowances rather than wages. I'm going to have Professor Thomas here for us to break that down. Sisters and brothers, I love you all. And I want you all to love us back. Because we got to keep up this struggle. Again, I want to thank all those people I met at the conference. I want to thank those people who came out to the meet and greet. Thank you again. I don't want to start naming names because I will forget some names. But you know who you are. You lifted us up. You all lifted us up. And we must be eternally grateful. We're not letting up. We have them locked. A lot of times, the success of what you do, the evidence of that success is not always in how you frame the success. It is how those to whom your actions are directed, how they respond. And the government responds to the conference in Washington shows that they get Congo Teado. When you get Congo Teado, you look out for rain. They know they get Congo Te. They know they get the dirtiness that passes for governance. The discrimination, racial discrimination, class discrimination, gender discrimination. Look at what they did to their own supporters in Barbados. They sent the police on them. The police stripped them in order to take picture. And I want the Indian Guyanese to recognize that the PPP did not stand up and defend their own supporters. They said their own supporters are greedy. And they put the police on them to beat them and to strip them. We are winning. The contradictions are there. Brother David Patterson went through security, went through immigration, sitting down waiting to board the plane, and then they discovered he's on a no-fly list. If you're on a no-fly list, they pick you up at immigration. Whenever I come into Guyana, I have to be cleared. I usually make fun with immigration officers because they have to do their thing, and then you could hear, clear, yes, only then can I pass in. I know I'm on a watch list. So every time I travel into that country, and this has been going on since the PPP being in office the last time. So if you're on a watch list or you're on a no-fly list, they pick you up at immigration. So it's clear that the brother was not on no watch list, no fly list. They decided that the brother was not going to fly out. And the sinner sent a little black girl to do the nastiness and then trying to blame her. They only relented because we were in Washington. The world was watching in real time what they were doing. American government officials were watching in real time what they were doing. The Black Caucus was watching in real time what they were doing. And they had to let that brother fly. It's a nasty government. Up to no good. Up to no good. I love you all. I love you all so much because we are doing this together. Tomorrow night we come again. And we're going to get our teeth into some of the other developments that are taking place. We're nabbing them in real time. We know what they're doing. We know those Venezuelans and others that are coming into the country. We know they're prospective voters. So even when they will have to give in to biometrics, and they will have to give in to the voters list, they're already opening up new avenues of rigging. It's easy now to get a birth certificate. They have ID cards. And they're trying to rig the elections among the migrant population in Guyana. You see, those people are working on multiple fronts. And, you know, they want to lock us off with biometrics. And then when they say we'll give in to biometrics, they don't open up other avenues of rigging. We got to be on their case. We have to be on their case. It's a full-time job. Full-time job. Good night. I want you all to be good and to come back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow because the work continues. The work continues.